In this tutorial, I will be showing you how to use the AI agent workflow to create your own personalized AI automation tool for any purpose, ranging from notifications, analysis, and trade automation. To get started, click on AI Agents from the main menu, and you will be redirected to the Workflow window. The Workflow window will contain the list of workflows you have created. Right now, there are no tools created yet. At the top right of the window, you can either import an AI workflow or create a new one. I will first show you how to create a new agent, and then I will revisit the Import section to show you how to import or even export an AI workflow. Let's get started with creating a new workflow. Click on the Create AI Agent button at the top right of the window. This will create a new canvas for your workflow. At the top, you'll notice the number of nodes, which is currently at 0 because you haven't added any node yet, and also the control buttons. Starting from the left-hand side, the first button is the Zoom Out, then we have the Zoom In, and then Zoom Adjust. The next button is the Sample button, which shows a window of several templates. The next is the Play button, which tests the workflow nodes you have created. The Save button is used for saving the completed workflow. The button with the trash icon is used for clearing the canvas and starting afresh. The last button is the Maximize button. When clicked, it will maximize the canvas into full screen. Now, there is a single button that opens the menu of tools you can add to your canvas, and it is this button with the plus icon at the top left of the canvas. When you click on the button, it opens a menu with all the tools you can add to the workflow canvas. The tools are arranged alphabetically, and you can search for a tool using the search input at the top of the Tools menu. When you hover over a tool, it gives you a quick description of what the tool can do. You can add a tool to the workflow canvas by the drag and drop method. For example, I will drag a tool into the canvas. When you add a tool to the canvas, it becomes a single node in the workflow. Now notice that at the top of the canvas, just before the control buttons, the nodes now show 1. This means you have 1 node in the canvas. And if I drag and drop another tool into the canvas, it will show that 2 nodes have been added. Each of the tools in the workflow canvas is seen as a node. This helps you keep count of the total number of nodes in your canvas, especially for complex workflows. Each node has a menu of its own. When you click on a node, it displays a quick menu above it. In the menu, you have the Description, Delete, Test, and Settings buttons. I will explain each of these buttons and try them out for you to see. First, the Description button. When you click on it, it displays what the node can do. It is the same as when you hover over a tool from the Tools menu. The second is the Delete button. When you click on it, it removes the node from the canvas. The third is the Test button. The Test button is used to test a single node and all its child inputs. This means that when you click the Test button above a node, it will only run that node. If you have other nodes attached to it, they are called child nodes, which means that the parent node will need data from the child nodes as inputs. Therefore, all child nodes and the parent node will be executed. I will show you a typical example. First, I will clear the canvas to start afresh. Then I will add tools to the canvas. In this example, I will add just 2 tools for simplicity. Each of the nodes is separate and independent of each other, which means I can run each one separately. When I run the first node, it will execute exclusively without running the other node. When you click on the completed pop-out menu at the bottom of the node, you can see the return data from the first node. The same thing happens when I execute the second node. It runs exclusively without executing the other node in the canvas. In this node, there is no return data. But when I combine both of them by connecting one node to the other, if I run the child node, since it has no node attached to it, the child node will run alone without executing the parent. But when I run the parent node, it executes the child nodes first before executing the parent node. This is because the parent node needs the data from the child nodes, so it has to execute the child node first and then use the data for its own action. Now, let's talk about the last button, the Settings button. Each node comes with its own Settings button. When you click on the Settings button, it shows the node's settings. You can set up how the node should execute or what kind of data you want it to fetch. There is something I want you to notice. There are two AI tools in the Tools menu. You have the AI Prompt tool, and then you also have the Worker tool. Both tools use AI models to work on data provided to the model, but there is a difference in their approach. The AI Prompt tool will run all child nodes attached to it, even when it doesn't need the data. It's designed that way because it might need the data along the line. So it collects all the data from every child input before proceeding to complete its task. The second option, which is the Worker node, only calls tools that are specified in its prompt. You can attach many child nodes to the worker, but it will only use the tools list necessary to complete its task. If it doesn't need a tool, it won't use it, or execute that node either. It streamlines how data is used by importance, except when you explicitly ask it to call a tool, even when not necessary. Let's see this by example. I will design two identical flows, one using the AI Prompt tool and the other using the Worker tool. I will add the same two child nodes for each AI node. In this example, I will add the commitment of traders and the news tools. I will then proceed to connect each tool to both the AI Prompt and the Worker nodes. There is something else you need to know. For the workflow setup using the AI Prompt, you need to specifically set up the inputs of each node. You have to go to the settings of each node and enter the data you want to fetch manually, because the AI Prompt will only use the tools as they are provided, without any further setup. While for the workflow setup using the Worker node, you don't need to explicitly set up each tool for what data is needed. You can simply enter a prompt in the worker and tell it what kind of data you need it to get for its task. For both the AI Prompt node and the Worker node, I will use the same AI model and the same prompt text, asking each to summarize Apple stock news data from Google Finance in 50 words. I will run the workflow with the AI Prompt node, and you will notice that it will execute all the child nodes, even when you have requested it to get only the news data. This is because it executes all tools attached to it, even when not needed. It then stores the data and references it when needed. I will also run the workflow with the Worker node. Now, the difference is that this particular workflow will first read your input and understand the task requested of it, then check the tools provided and execute only the list of tools needed to complete its task. In this case, it only needed the news data to complete its task. And that is the only tool it is going to execute. Sometimes you may want to build complex workflows. Adding too many tools to a single worker might be too complex for a proper data flow. You can build your workflow in layers by adding tools to different workers according to how you want to assign duties to each of the workers. I have just built a simple example, as shown on my workflow canvas. In this case, I built two separate workflows. Each of the workflows has its own worker. For each worker, I have given it a name. The name can be whatever you want, but it's better to name the worker as a summary of what it does. 2 or 3 words are completely fine. You will notice that I have not added a prompt to these workers. I left the prompt empty. That's because I want to create a master worker that will control each workflow. I will proceed to create the master worker. I will give it a simple name by just naming it master. Then I will connect each workflow as a child input to the master. Next, I will edit the master and add a prompt text. In the master prompt text, I will instruct the master to get tick data and news data for its analysis. These are the only tools I want it to utilize. Next, I will run the workflow from the Control button at the top of the canvas. This will run the entire workflow, but this time only performing the tasks requested of it. When you check the workers attached to the master, you will notice that the master has passed an instruction to the workers to perform tasks just as a user would. Each of the workers attached to the master will receive their own specific instructions on what to do from the master node, and then return their values to the master node, which will use these responses from its workers to generate a final result. Sometimes you may want to get updated information from a website and add that information as data in your workflow. Well, we have the perfect solution for that too. You will need to install the browser plugin. To do this, go to your profile by clicking on the user icon at the bottom left of the app. Then click on Settings. Next, navigate to the Plugins menu and then install the browser plugin. This will download and install the plugin. It may take some time depending on your network speed, but you can continue carrying out other activities within the app while the installation runs in the background. Once the browser plugin installation is completed, you can then make changes to the browser settings. You can choose for the browser to be visible when performing an activity or make it invisible, allowing it to run quietly in the background. You can also choose to display web page images or hide them. But keep in mind, displaying images can slow down the browser's performance. For the sake of this tutorial, I'll leave all settings at their default values. If there's any plugin you no longer need, you can easily remove it by clicking the Uninstall button. Now, going back to the workflow canvas, you'll notice from the Tools menu that you now have two new tools, Chrome Browser and TradingView Analysis. Let's start with the Chrome Browser. I'll drag the Chrome Browser tool into the canvas and then open its settings. Here, I can add any website link of my choice or even multiple links where I want to fetch data from. After adding the links, I'll save the settings and then proceed to run the node. This will launch a Chrome browser, wait for the browser to fully load, navigate through the page, and fetch all textual data and other information available on that page. Once it's done, the browser will automatically close and the collected data will be presented to you. You can then pass this data to an AI worker or an AI prompt and ask it to extract specific information or organize it into a particular data structure. Alternatively, you can use the code tool to write your own custom script for extracting the exact data you need from the content. When you want your workflow to save its final result as an action that needs to be carried out by a trading platform, you must use the Action node. The Action node contains decisions such as buy, sell, auto decision, or modify existing trades. For the buy option, the AI searches for trends and patterns in the data to determine if a buy signal is needed. If no valid pattern is found, it will not save the action. The same applies to the sell option. If no sell pattern is detected, no action will be saved. For the auto decision, the AI searches for both buy and sell patterns in its analysis, and if either is found, it saves the appropriate action automatically. For the modify trades option, the AI only modifies trades from accounts already attached to it. Let's go through an example using one of these options. First, I will add an AI prompt to the canvas and connect it to the decision node. Next, I'll drag and drop the tick data tool into the canvas and then attach it to the AI prompt node. I'll modify the tick data to get EURUSD data for a daily time frame. Then, I'll adjust the AI prompt to calculate the RSI from the collected data and determine a buy option if the RSI is greater than 50 or a sell option if the RSI is less than 50. Disclaimer: please note that my prompts in this tutorial are kept very simple. Just to show you how to use the tools effectively, your prompts should be more detailed with more data nodes attached to your AI to achieve the best and most accurate results. Back to the tutorial. In my action node, I have selected Auto Decision. Now I will run the workflow. This will fetch the tick data, perform the RSI calculation, and then make the appropriate trade decision. In situations where the workflow is saved to run in the background, the decision will be executed automatically in any trading platform where the workflow is attached. When using the worker node, you can perform a multi-step analysis. Each step is separated by a new line, starting with a / and a hash. This structure helps you organize your workflow clearly and allows the worker to execute each step sequentially, ensuring that your analysis flows smoothly from one stage to the next. Let me show you how to do this with an example. First, I'll add a worker node to the canvas. Then I'll add a news data node to the canvas as well and attach it to the worker. Next, I'll add a prompt to the worker to carry out a simple sentiment analysis. And finally, summarize the data. The worker will treat each line that starts with a / and a hash as a new instruction, and it will complete each step as requested, using the data history from previous steps. The resulting data, along with the entire sequence of completed tasks, is collected in blocks for easy review. You can open the result window and select each block to view the output of each completed task. You can also click on the data window to see the complete chat history for the entire process. You can generate workflows automatically using AI. To do this, click on the floating AI icon at the bottom right of the canvas. Start by typing @generate, then select the generate tag that appears above the input area. This action tags your prompt as a generation request, telling the AI to create tools and workflows directly within the current window. In this example, I'll use a simple prompt by asking the AI to create a workflow that collects and summarizes news data and then sends the summary to flaxbot Telegram. Generating a workflow may take a few seconds to complete, so just give it a moment. Once the workflow is generated, you can modify the nodes by opening each node's settings and making changes as you see fit. Always make sure to cross-check every generated node to confirm that the contents match what you actually requested. And when you want to exit the generation mode and return to normal chat, simply click on the Generate Tool tag above the input area. This will remove the generation tag and disable the workflow generation mode, allowing you to continue chatting normally. I've created a very simple workflow to perform a basic action, fetching current news data and sending a notification to a Telegram user. This workflow doesn't require an AI, which shows that you can still create functional workflows even without connecting an AI model. This is especially useful for users who have not yet obtained an AI API key. In the workflow canvas, I've added a news data node, and in the news data settings, I've set it to fetch Microsoft stock news from Google Finance and then send the news data as a notification to a specific Telegram username that I've configured. If you notice, I've also added a comment node. The comment node is used to add notes or reminders within your workflow. It can describe what a particular node does, explain the purpose of the entire workflow, or include any other textual comment of your choice. Now, I'll proceed to save this workflow by clicking on the Save button from the control tools above the canvas. Enter a suitable name for the workflow. Provide a description of what the workflow does. Then, select how you want the workflow to execute in terms of how often or when it should run. Lastly, you can choose between two options. You can save only or save and run. If you choose save only, the workflow will not execute. If you choose save and run, the workflow will be saved and will begin running according to the specified execution time. In this example, I'll select save and run. Once you've configured the save settings, click on Save. Congratulations! You've just created your first workflow. You can always make changes later if needed. From the submenu of the workflow, you can edit the workflow, clone it, export and share it, stop the workflow from executing, or even delete it entirely. When you click on Stop from the submenu, it will pause the workflow from further execution. If you want to restart it, simply click on Run from the same submenu. When you click on Export, it will export your workflow as a single JSON file. You can share this file with others or import it later into your own workspace. To import a workflow, click on Import at the top right corner of the window. Then either drag and drop the workflow JSON file you want to import, or click on the Import area to select the file manually. This will import the workflow into your list of created workflows, where you can open it, edit it, and make changes as needed. And that brings this tutorial to an end. In subsequent videos, I'll show you how to attach your AI workflow agents and other tools to a trading account. So stay tuned.